In the early days of Meghan Markle's entrance into the royal family, the stage was set for what many believed would be a new era. The monarchy, centuries old and steeped in tradition, had welcomed a fresh face, a woman unlike any royal bride before her. Meghan was glamorous, articulate, and modern. She carried herself with poise, but also with a confidence that was not born of palace walls. To the public, she was a breath of fresh air, a symbol of progress and inclusivity. But within the grandeur of Buckingham Palace, the whispers began almost immediately. Meghan was not raised in royal circles. She had not been groomed for duty since birth. To courtiers, she represented change, and change was often viewed as threat. The excitement of her arrival slowly gave way to unease. Behind smiles on balconies and carefully choreographed appearances, tension simmered. Meghan was determined to remain herself, even in the face of centuries-old rituals. And the crown, while welcoming her publicly, prepared quietly for a storm they feared was inevitable. From the beginning, Meghan was different. She wasn't just entering a marriage, she was entering an institution, one that had rules unwritten but fiercely guarded. As an American actress, she was used to attention, but the royal stage was something else entirely. Every smile was scrutinized, every gesture recorded, every moment judged not only by the press, but by palace insiders. For some within the monarchy, Meghan's background was her greatest flaw. She wasn't British-born, she had her career of her own, and she was of mixed heritage. While the public celebrated these qualities as proof that the royal family was moving forward, the palace viewed them with suspicion. Meghan was warm, outspoken, and willing to question the traditions she didn't understand. But in a world where rules are rarely explained, only enforced, that made her a target. Even small decisions, her fashion choices, her willingness to speak openly, her refusal to always defer, were seen as disruptions. And though she tried to adjust, it became clear, no matter what she did, Meghan would always be viewed as the outsider, the one who could never fully belong. If the palace's whispers weighed on Meghan, the press became a thunderstorm. From the moment her relationship with Harry was made public, newspapers spun stories that ranged from the petty to the cruel. Comparisons to other royals, particularly Kate Middleton, were relentless. Where Kate was praised, Meghan was criticized. Where Kate was framed as elegant, Meghan was painted as difficult. The tabloids thrived on contrast, and Meghan's every move was headline material. Yet beneath the gossip lay something darker, a hostility that bordered on obsession. Old prejudices surfaced in print and online, feeding a narrative that Meghan was unfit for her role. Day after day, article after article, the storm grew heavier. For Harry, it was like stepping back into his childhood. He had seen this script before: the flashing bulbs, the ruthless coverage, the lack of mercy. It was the same relentless pressure that had hounded his mother, Diana, until the very end. And now, the woman he loved was enduring the same torment. The press did not just cover Meghan, they consumed her. The royal family has always valued silence. For centuries, the unwritten rule was clear: never complain, never explain. But Meghan was not raised in that tradition. Silence to her was not strength, it was suffocation. And so she spoke. In interviews and candid conversations, Meghan began to reveal what life inside the palace was really like. She spoke of isolation, of loneliness, of the mental strain that came with constant scrutiny. She admitted there were days when she felt invisible, and others when she felt crushed by the weight of expectation. Her words resonated with millions who saw her not as a duchess, but as a woman under siege. But to the palace, her voice was rebellion. Each statement she gave, each truth she revealed, was seen as a betrayal of the crown's ancient code. Royals had suffered in silence for generations. Why should she be different? And yet, Meghan refused to bow to that expectation. Speaking her truth became her form of survival, even as it deepened the divide with the family she had married into. Royal duty is not merely a role, it is a binding contract with history. Every royal is expected to sacrifice individuality for the good of the crown. But Meghan's refusal to conform tore at the very heart of that contract. Where others endured, she questioned. Where others bowed, she resisted. Harry, too, began to feel the strain. Raised in the shadow of tradition, he had long struggled with the rigidity of royal life. Meghan's courage gave him the clarity to act on what he had always felt, that the monarchy was not built to nurture individuality, only to consume it. Together, they became a force the tradition could not bend. Their choice to step back from royal duties was more than a personal decision. It was a fracture in the system itself. A prince walking away, a duchess refusing silence. These were acts that shook the monarchy's image to its core.
The turning point came not in words, but in absence. For the royal family, appearances are everything. Weddings, jubilees, funerals, christenings, these are not just family events, they are displays of unity, carefully staged for the world to see. And yet, as the years went on, Meghan began to step away. Invitations were declined, ceremonies were missed, moments that once required her presence were left to unfold without her. To the public, these were private choices. After all, Meghan and Harry had chosen a new life across the ocean. But to the palace, her absence spoke louder than words. Each missed event was read as a statement, a rejection of the crown, a refusal to play her part in the grand performance. The most striking moment came when the royal family gathered for one of its most solemn occasions, and Meghan was nowhere to be seen. To her, it was survival. To them, it was a deliberate snub, a final insult that confirmed what they had long feared. She was no longer theirs, and she would never return. What the public saw as freedom, the palace saw as betrayal. And that absence, empty but powerful, left a scar that could never be erased. In this storm, one truth remained unshakable: Harry's loyalty to Meghan. To the world, he was the prince who gave up everything. To Harry, he was a husband who refused to lose the woman he loved to the same forces that had claimed his mother. From the very beginning, Harry had sensed the hostility toward Meghan. He had seen the headlines, heard the whispers, and felt the weight of palace disapproval. But rather than retreating, he made his choice clear. His allegiance was to Meghan. He would protect her even if it meant standing against the institution that had defined his life. This loyalty did not come without cost. The rift between Harry and his brother William deepened. The bond between father and son grew strained, and the image of the once united royal family cracked further with each passing year. But Harry's determination never faltered. To him, the true betrayal would have been silence. By choosing Meghan, Harry was not simply choosing love, he was choosing a different path, a path that placed humanity above tradition and family above the crown. In the end, this loyalty became the foundation of their departure and the reason the palace could never forgive. The royal family does not respond with outbursts or dramatic gestures. Its power lies in quiet control, in gestures so subtle that they are barely noticed by the public, but deeply understood within palace walls. And so, their response to Meghan's departure and her final snub was silence. But it was a silence filled with meaning. Photographs were altered. Meghan and Harry were slowly erased from royal displays, portraits repositioned, names shifted in official documents and speeches. Their absence at key events was highlighted not by words, but by protocol. Whereas they once would have stood at the front, their places were given to others. The monarchy's silence spoke volumes. By erasing, by excluding, by carefully stepping around their names, the palace made its judgment clear. Forgiveness was not forthcoming. The royal family does not easily forget, and it rarely forgives those who publicly defy its traditions. To the outside world, it might have looked like calm detachment. But within the gilded halls, this was punishment. A quiet exile, enforced not by decree, but by omission. And for Harry and Meghan, that silence was louder than any headline could ever be. Across the ocean, a very different life began to take shape. Far from the shadow of palaces and courtiers, Meghan and Harry found something they had long craved: peace. In California, the sun replaced the cold stone walls of Windsor, and their home became a sanctuary for their young family. Here, Meghan could speak freely, pursue her projects, and shape her own image without the weight of palace expectations. Together they launched ventures in media and charity, determined to use their platform on their own terms. The contrast was striking. Once defined by titles and duty, they were now carving out a new identity as individuals. But freedom came with its own challenges. The press still followed, the critics still circled, and the shadow of the crown never truly faded. Every word they spoke, every project they launched, was measured against the life they had left behind. Still, for Meghan, this was the life she had chosen, and for Harry, it was the life he had promised her. They had traded tradition for independence, ceremony for authenticity. And though the palace saw betrayal, they saw survival and a chance to build a future unbound by royal rules. And so we arrive at the heart of the story. Meghan Markle's final snub was not a single act, but a culmination, a refusal to conform, to return, or to be silenced. To the palace, it was unforgivable. To Meghan, it was simply the only way forward. For the royal family, this wound remains raw. The monarchy survives by unity, by the image of unshakable togetherness. Meghan and Harry's departure shattered that illusion, revealing fractures the crown would rather have kept hidden. Each absence, each candid word, is a reminder of what was lost. And though years have passed, the wound remains open. For the monarchy, forgiveness is unlikely, not because of what Meghan did, but because of what she represents. She is proof that the crown can be walked away from, that duty can be defied, that tradition is not unbreakable. For Meghan and Harry, the story is different. Theirs is a story of love over duty, voice over silence, survival over submission. They found freedom, but the cost was permanent exile. And so, the wound remains, between palace and prince, between duty and desire, between the crown and the woman who chose not to wear it.